Hi, this is Paula.
And I'm Joseph, and you're listening to Life Lived Better. Well, hey there, how are you doing?
I am doing well. How was your weekend?
My weekend was good, just kind of low key as usual. Did a few things with some friends, dinner out, did some house cleaning, cleaned out some kitchen cabinets, and got rid of some stuff.
That
And
doesn't sound
so it
low
was,
key. That sounds like busy, busy, busy.
I guess it was busy. Oh, we did the yard, so I guess it was busy,
Yeah.
but it didn't feel like overwhelmingly busy.
That's, I know. See, everyone always says you guys are always doing things and you never feel like it. It's all perspective there, isn't it?
Guess so.
It's
How was
awesome.
yours?
It was good, busy. I mean, we were busy, definitely. I stayed in town this weekend, but yeah, I'm still on my garage, still doing that project. It's going to take
Nice.
me a while, and worked on some landscaping I've been doing. I've been putting like flagstones in my flower beds. I have lots and lots of flower beds. Some are really large, so I've been putting like flagstone walkways through them. And
Hmm.
this weekend I did one like up to the spigots in each flower bed, and so that took
Nice.
forever. And then we ended the weekend by taking the car to get cleaned out. It's one of my
Love a
favorite
clean
things.
car.
Oh, it's my favorite. We have one of those I don't know, subscription services, whatever you,
Uh-huh.
where you can go through
Membership.
yeah, membership. There you go, to one of the places that has a couple of spots near us where you can drive through anytime when they have free vacuuming. And you're like into car cleanliness whenever what's most exciting is they have vacuums, but they also have those little things that blow air.
Like
So you
air
can
compressors.
really, whew, you
Yeah.
can really
Yeah.
detail your car like that. I get so excited about those
Yeah.
things. Those are such bizarre weirdnesses I have, but hey, it keeps me happy.
That's right.
Serious. It was a trip. I was like, hey, you want to go for a ride? And I trick people into cleaning my car with me.
Yeah, I love a clean car.
What's on tap today?
So today we're going to be talking a little bit about aging, the aging
Mm.
process, and kind of what we've experienced, what you can expect, and some things that you can do to help with the aging process to
Uh,
slow the process.
I love the topic. It's a topic that when we brainstormed long before we started recording anything, it was on my list. And the reason it was on my list is because I was so surprised as I aged. I kept telling people, nobody told me this. And kind of true to my experience as we did research, I found a lot of information on what happens as you age, what you can do about it, what you should be doing. But the missing piece was that part of like, really, nobody told me this, what the kind of feelings are as a result of what happens as we age. That
Mm,
piece really is missing out there. So I'm glad we're talking about it, even though
yeah.
it's not an easy one for me.
What are some things that you've experienced from an aging
Oh
standpoint?
man. And I gotta say, I'm not old. I mean, like, I'm not. I mean, I think maybe a 20-year-old would think I'm old, but my relatives that are older than me would definitely say, like, you're not old. But I'm as old as I've ever been. So this is what's it for me. So there's some physical changes that I didn't realize. Now I reflect and think back. I was telling my sister the last weekend I was home visiting. I was telling her, like, I remember my mom saying things like, I really like these dishes, but they're so heavy. I wish I had lighter dishes. And I remember thinking, what's the deal? I mean, what's the big deal? It's here, I'll get it down. It's not heavy. Things do get heavier. I mean,
Hmm.
that's a weird thing, but I find myself like going, oh, that's a neat pan. Oh, no, it's too heavy. I don't want to have to mess with getting that out whenever I'm cooking. I want something just easier. Those kind of things change. And I said no one told me. Maybe they did and I don't remember, or maybe they tried and I didn't listen. Because I, as a youngster, really believed none of this would ever happen to me, and that it wouldn't happen the same way because I was so much smarter anyway when
Right.
I was younger.
You knew everything.
Oh, I did, but just physical abilities. I mean, things that like the garage take longer than they used to. This is going to be a multi-weekend project. I think there were times in my 20s that I could have whipped that out in a weekend. I
Mm-hmm.
could have had everything out. I could have cleaned the floor, painted the whole thing, put it back in, and it would have been like one of those long weekends. It's not now, you know.
Yeah.
I just have to be okay with that. Don't
Yeah.
always love it, but you know, just a little slower than I used to be.
And it still gets done though, right?
Hey, for sure. Eventually. There's always something to do this way, isn't there? I don't sit around going, "Oh, everything's done. What do I do now?"
Right.
Uh, vision and hearing change. I think people say like after 40. My experience was like right at 50 when most of my changes occurred. I didn't have glasses my entire life. Now I need them to see at a distance.
Mm-hmm.
Just in the last year, I have that experience where I'm pulling things farther away, you know,
Yeah.
like can't read the small writing. I've invested in one of those lighted magnifying glasses. Ah,
Ooh, you are old.
I know. Readers, you know, like I actually have those now so I can see things, or I'll just hand things to my son and say, What does that say?" You know, hey, little bit of like just your skin changes, your hair changes, your teeth change, your everything kind of just changes. I wake up and look in the mirror and go, "Oh, look at that wrinkle." Look at that
Mm-hmm.
wrinkle that even Botox won't take care of anymore. It's part of wisdom, I guess, right?
Right.
The
I know
looks
my
and
hair is certainly my beard especially you can see is almost all white and my mom asked me not too long ago. Well, it's been probably been a year. She asked me if I was highlighting my hair again because I used to highlight my hair when I was a kid.
oh,
I was like, nope, it's all natural, silver and
oh,
gray coming in.
doesn't that hurt?
And I look at pictures from a year ago, and my beard's like solid red. Like all of this has just happened, in the last year. It's crazy.
Oh, but see, and here's something we don't, society it looks at men, and you just look just more refined, more,
Well,
you know,
thanks. Thanks.
men, just the way they age. Gray with for men is gorgeous. It's just, it's just this, I don't know, it just looks so amazing on men. Women, not so much.
No.
Although I have noticed many more women going gray, and even some
Mm-hmm.
youngsters kind of going for the platinum look in their
Yeah.
hair. I did try it, but
Didn't work for you.
well, over the little, you know, COVID shutdown time, I decided not to color my hair, and I had inches of gray, and then I had to go to an in-person event, and I had to make that decision, like, do I color it or do I just do the half gray hair, half colored hair? And I colored it. It's like, no.
Just call it an ombre and be done with it.
There you go. Maybe if I would have been working with a hairstylist. But, you know, other little things like, you know, memory. Can't remember things like I used to, where I do remember people would say in the past, like I can remember everything. Like I had a really
Mm-hmm.
good memory where someone would say, "Hey, have you seen my," and I would say, "Oh yeah, it's on the top shelf, left-hand corner on the blah, blah, blah," you know, and in my home, it's probably marked in a box that has an organization label on it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm like, really can't, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but the things that I think are like good news about aging is like my priorities have changed so much. I feel like what used to be important to me is not important anymore. And those things that were important were things that would cause me to worry and to panic. And, you know, like it doesn't matter to me what other people have. Whereas maybe in my 20s or 30s, I kind of wanted to keep up with
Mm-hmm.
what others have. And now it's just like I know what makes me happy, and it's not the things that used to, and it's so much, it's relieving, you know.
Yeah.
It's just so like I don't get caught up in a lot of drama anymore, because what people think of me isn't as important as it used to be, or how I
Mm-hmm.
dress, or how my hair is, or how you know, if I have this kind of bag and all that. It's just like those things are so much less important, and I think a lot more about my mortality, you know, like people I know are passing away. The generation in my family above me is thinning, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's like I'm becoming the older generate part of the older generation. And so I think about how long life probably is and how much more time I have. Of course, no one ever knows, but how I spend the rest of my years.
Mm-hmm.
That I want to do what makes me happy rather than worrying so much about things. I like that part of it. I also don't feel guilty when I say no anymore, where I
That's
used to
good.
be. Yeah, seriously. I used to say yes to everything. And I think the other little piece of news is that we learn as we age,
Mm-hmm.
and life experience can't be replaced with education, no matter how important education is. And I think it's very important. You just can't know some things, without having the experience. And I have a lot more experience now, and I've learned a lot of lessons. And hey, as long as I'm learning lessons from them, I think that I'm wiser. Maybe
Yeah.
not smarter, but definitely wiser. And I think finally on my little list of one of things, I my own list I created, is that there's not much that gets me uptight anymore. There's like not a lot of big deals. I'm more
Mm-hmm.
mellow. There is some research that says part of that is because as we age, we're a little slower to react. And that so we probably think before we act. And hey, I don't care if it's because I'm slower, or if I'm just more if I'm just more in charge of my reactions. I like that part of it. I like that a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah. That's a good thing for sure. Why,
Yeah.
as far as my concerns, aging wise, I mean, my hair's gotten thinner. It's changing colors. I crack when I stand up.
Yes.
Could throw my back out like with a sneeze.
Bendigo, yeah. What did you do? Boating accident? No.
I've had to learn like I can't do the things that I used to do in a weekend, like the weekend warrior projects in the
Mhm.
yard, and
Mhm.
like because I pay for it for weeks instead of, a day or two.
Yeah.
So definitely have noticed physical restraints. And you mentioned memory, like my memory has always been awful, but it's weird the things I remember. Like I can remember clients and details about their life and, their stories, but I can't remember, a movie that I saw 2 weeks ago or, a restaurant that I've eaten at. It's just Polo's constantly saying, "You don't remember?" I'm like, no, I don't. That's why I said, huh?
I wonder if that has
So
anything to do with your attentiveness to it, because I know when you're with clients, you're very like present,
yeah.
or maybe it's important to you. Huh.
Possibly. My sister says it's stress, that I'm spend a lot of my life stressed and that really causes like forgetfulness, which
Mhm.
I do believe that. I do believe that that is fact based. It's
Hey,
probably
well,
why
the
I'm
good
going
news
gray
is
too.
that's
Oh,
funny. I did read some things in our like our sourced material that the hair, for men, like starts disappearing on the head, but showing up on the nose and in the ears.
migrates.
It does.
Mhm.
That's funny. I told my husband this morning, like, I think I'm just gonna go back to school with a mustache.
Please don't.
That's a joke. That's a
Please
joke. I will
don't.
not mustache
Huh.
myself.
Yeah, I definitely have noticed the hair migration.
It's exciting, isn't
So exciting.
it? People in their 20s ought to hear this, though, right?
Absolutely.
Think they'll listen? Think they'll
Probably not.
believe? Yeah.
Probably not. I'm
No.
sure people told me things when I was younger, and we were talking about last episode, like retirement and 401k. It's like you don't think about that stuff when you're younger. You're not thinking about getting older. And, I remember in my 20s, saying people in their 40s and 50s were old. And
Mhm.
now I'm still rounding down. If we were rounding, I'd be 40, but, I'm getting closer and closer. And, I don't feel really that old,
Yeah.
but my body definitely, like I said, cracks and creaks and pops and
Mhm.
makes all kinds of noises. So I do have
Isn't
to
it?
be more careful.
Isn't it interesting how what we think of as old now certainly isn't what it was when we were in our 20s?
Mm-hmm.
20-year-olds aren't even listening to this. They saw the title of it and they were just like, not for me. So that's
Yeah.
good. But we did find some decent information when we asked the experts, and we found that even some researchers say that there is some awesome stuff about aging.
Yes, there is.
In my work up at the university, we had one of our sister programs is like an aging program where that's the academic thing people are studying is aging. And the people that I work with there talk a lot about how as newer younger people come into the marketplace that they aren't always as respected, and these folks that are older in whatever industry you're working, I think rather than just discounting them, if you could find time to talk with them and find out about what they know, because they're probably just like these walking resources of information. And when we learn from people that have already been there before us, sometimes we can avoid mistakes.
Mm,
We can hear what had they've tried, what they've been involved in. Our field was created in our lifetimes, like especially here in Texas, like our licensure was created in our lifetime. It had only been created right before I started going to college, for
mm,
addiction. And I have gotten to in my lifetime, like in my career lifetime, interact and network with some of the people that were part of that like
mm.
were there when they were creating the licensure. And at first, that wasn't very interesting to me. I was like, woohoo, big deal. But now when I start looking back, I'm like, wow, that it's actually really interesting to get to talk to and get a historical perspective from people who were there to find out, like, why, like, why did you think it was important for us to get a license instead of that certification that we had? What's the reason for that? And as they explain it, I've actually written a little history of the addiction profession in our state for some curriculum that I wrote, because I think looking at history, any kind of history, is important so we know kind of how to go forward, and the reasons some choices were made, or reasons that education was added, or that education wasn't added to certain places in our licensure. Those are
Mhm.
interesting pieces of information to me.
Yeah.
And then in the workplace, if you can imagine being someone who has all that knowledge and all that experience and being discounted. I think sometimes when people get to retirement age, I know I've heard a lot about people feeling like their contributions aren't as important. And then as they retire, just the difficulty of going from being like a productive member of a team or of an industry and getting up every day and having a purpose, that sometimes there's a little bit of isolation, loneliness, and depression that can happen when you don't have, a plan of action. You don't have a place to be each day. You don't have that same purpose. So just kind of for me, keeping my eyes open for looking at how much more time am going to be working, and what I would do when the time comes. What will I do when the time comes that I won't be getting up and going to an office every day?
Oh, that sounds so nice.
It does. It does sometimes it does. I don't know, but you and I both went through unemployment together, and neither one of us were sitting around just enjoying it. Sometimes we were like, what what's next? What's
Yeah.
next?
Yeah, but I think with retirement, I mean, you work your whole life to get to that point of, being able to walk away from it versus being unemployed. You don't really have a big
That is
choice in
true.
that, right?
That is true. And I guess there's a difference between being at home with some income and being home
Right.
going, "Oh, where's my next dollar coming from?"
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
exactly.
think it's interesting too, like people that do retire oftentimes end up getting part-time job or finding something that they can do because that loss of structure is pretty leads to depression sometimes
Mhm.
because if you don't have some kind of purpose or some kind of especially if you're a social person to go from being in a working environment to just being on your own and not around people on a daily basis, like that could get depressing.
Absolutely. We actually talked about that in my counseling, my personal counseling this week, about how one thing that, like, rarely sit down from the time I get up in the morning until it's time to go to bed. And when I mean sit down, I don't mean literally. I'm obviously sitting right now, but figuratively, I don't just like hang out on the sofa, because that doesn't feel productive to me.
Hmm.
And so for me, a challenge is like, I do need to take a break. I do need to learn how to just be okay with some downtime.
Hmm.
So like equate looking at that for retirement. I need to be realistic about retirement. Like, I do need to retire probably at some point,
Hmm.
and find a way to enjoy downtime and not feel like I have to fill up every moment with a something, with a project, with always doing, always moving and going. And then if we get real therapeutic, look at what's your fear, what's your fear of if you're not productive? What does that mean?
Hmm.
But we'll stop there. We don't need to go into Paula issues too far. Well, we do have some really good sourced information from the experts, and I broke up the information into two categories. One about, aging is awesome, and then, well, the parts that aren't so awesome, we can do something about it. There's
Yeah.
always a solution, right?
Yes.
Okie dokie. So the researchers found that, older people really are smarter. I was saying earlier, I feel like I'm a little wiser as I'm older. Well, that's called crystallized intelligence. Basically, it just means that you have life experience and you use what you've learned. And over time, it just keeps getting better. So we are smarter as we get older.
Makes perfect sense.
I agree.
One of the next ones is sweethearts. We become nicer as we get older instead of grumpier. I remember I had a friend growing up that used to say she couldn't wait to get older so she could be mean and get away with it. So I think I
Yes.
think some people do get grumpier, but for the most part we get nicer because we learn to control our emotions, we learn to focus more, and I think overall we probably, like you were saying earlier, we just stop worrying so much about what other people think, and situations that we find ourselves stressing about or obsessing about now are just not that important when you get older. Your
Yeah.
priorities do change.
So you don't get to stand on your lawn saying, "Get off my lawn," when you're
With
older.
the water hose.
Yeah. Dang. We also keep our emotions in check as we age. So you are in the sweet spot, Joseph. It says here that when you're in your 40s, that is supposedly like the best time of any in your entire life, that you're more in tune with the emotions of other people. Like, you really get others. You can really kind of be intuitive. So during your 40s, you should have like no spots in your schedule that aren't filled, because everybody should be flocking to you as their
Hmm.
therapist right now. The research says, that we slow down as we age, so we're not overreacting. You're thinking before we act, and that's a good payoff whenever it comes to our emotions. We're not gonna hear something, feel something, and just go out of control with it. We're gonna sit down and think a little bit.
Makes sense. So sleeping is something else that changes, and man, have I noticed a change in my sleep schedule. I
Hmm.
used to stay up all night long, would sleep until 11, 12, sometimes even later on a weekend, and now I wake up at 4 a.m. It was
Oh,
5, and it just in the last month or two, it's changed to 4. I can't
wow.
remember the last time I slept until an alarm woke me up. Like my body just wakes up.
That's
And,
amazing.
it happened when I turned 40. Like I've struggled with insomnia most of my life, and I don't know what happens physically, but people told me for years, like when you get older, your sleep will change, and it certainly has. And the great news is I've just become a morning person, which I've learned to embrace it. And I jokingly say I'm that old person that watches the news in the morning and has my coffee and makes my eggs, you know. But I enjoy it. It's kind of like my time, my quiet time. So it's been something that's good. But yeah, definitely as you get older, you tend to go to sleep earlier. You tend to wake up earlier. It's just something that happens with age.
It sounds amazing when I hear you talking about like that time in the morning as you're making your coffee. That sounds
Hmm.
so serene to me.
It really is.
Love it. And one extra wonderful thing about aging is sex is sexy. This is for women. As women age, they report having better sex. It might be less often, but the research is really saying that women say that sex improves when they're over 40, and then women over 80 reported being even more satisfied than women, like between 55 and 79. So, hey, nothing but good stuff to look forward to here.
Wow.
Sexy. I
Sex
don't know.
over 80. Hadn't thought about it.
I didn't even look into sex for men over that. I was going to let you handle that part. Sex over 80. Yeah, I hadn't even thought about it. Do we even still do it? Was my thought.
Apparently. If the
Good.
numbers say so, then apparently.
Good to know.
One of the other interesting things were no headaches. Migraine sufferers report that the headaches reduce greatly. Only 10% of women and 5% of men over the age of 70 still report migraines. Most people who still report them without pain, meaning they may have some like sensory disturbances, but they're not having the physical side effects or
That
physical
is
pain.
that is such a relief to me. Everyone in my family has migraines, seriously, and that sounds so nice to know because there's not like data about migraines, research. Everyone's migraines are different, so it's real hard to
Mhm.
pin down what causes migraines, and they're also different how people have them. It's so nice. Like that's so nice. I wonder if that's connected to stress in any way.
I was just thinking that I bet it is. The less you're stressed, the less your head hurts.
Hmm. Well, that's good because the next thing on the list is like stress-free, baby, baby boomers. And then the older generations, they report less stress and they report not that it goes away, but they learn how to deal with it so much better over a lifetime
Mm.
that their stress levels are much less than they are with us younger generations.
And the next one, rocking the vote. People over
Hmm.
the age of 60 tend to vote more than other age demographics. And I would say, that's something I've been really encouraging everyone I know to do is to vote, vote, vote. But I
Hmm.
think, it's most of the older folks that I know, especially retired folks, like I have a couple of friends that are retired that, go and volunteer at the polling stations. And so, there's tons of stuff like that you can do to kind of get involved. We're talking about retirement, kind of being bored. There are always things going on that you can get involved in, but I think that's an interesting statistic that the older you are, the more likely you are to vote.
Yeah. That's what when I read statistics, I always want to know the why, like what makes that true. I like knowing that it is a fact, but what makes it true? Like, is that because people younger than 60 don't think it's important, don't find it a priority, don't have the time? I mean, what is it? Because I totally agree. I think people in your 20s, 30s, 40s, all of us, we need to be voting because we all have an opinion usually about how the way the world around us works. I wish that was wish it wasn't so significant that we know that people 60 and older vote more than any of us. I wish like that next year when there's a significant election, this it blows this demographic out because I'd like to see all of us voting.
Well, and I bet if you like drill down on those numbers, probably the younger generation that does vote more than likely votes for presidency, but not these little smaller
Mhm.
elections,
Yeah.
local elections.
Mhm.
So I mean that was kind of my thinking when I was younger is I would vote for the president, but as far as the other stuff, I didn't take the time to educate myself, so I didn't feel like I should vote about it.
Mhm.
Or I just didn't think about it.
Yeah.
And used to they made it complicated where if you were, Democrat, you had to go to this location. If you were a Republican, you had to go to this location. And last few times I've voted, they just kind of had you go left or you go right. I don't
Mhm.
know if it's still separated, but it was complicated. I can remember going to vote and getting frustrated that I couldn't vote where I had gone and just being like, forget it.
Mhm. Yeah, that's for sure. That has changed and made things complicated with having all these districts and things of that nature. I'm thinking about people in their 60s are often like because I've done a lot of research on generations and like what has impacted them and just some factual things about them. And one thing I know about like the baby boomer generation and older, most of them are homeowners. And I think being a homeowner and living in a community, you are probably more inclined to vote in some of those community elections because of like things like property taxes and the districting of certain things or the
Hmm.
way that this city council, impacts this walkway in your neighborhood and things of that nature. So, I think if you're renting an apartment and you move into maybe a new voting district every year or two because you're kind of more transient because you haven't settled in a community, I could see why the local elections and things might not be as important to you.
Hmm.
So there are some not so awesome parts of aging, I see. Oh, so apparently, I haven't gotten there yet, but apparently, with age, our sense of smell and taste might dull, and plus, some medications might cause that too. And so, older generations are the most medicated of all of our, of all of us. So, medications play a more critical role as we age sometimes. So, hey, just use that as an opportunity to spice up your food, put more spice
Hmm.
in your life.
I've learned just with the stuff going on with my mom that sugar is something that tends to be your sweet taste buds, I guess, tend to be the things that go the last.
First or like you lose it
No,
last?
you keep it. You
Oh,
keep your
damn.
sense of taste for
So I'm gonna want
sweets
to eat ding
longer.
dongs forever.
Well, and it's like every time you go to, an elderly person's home, they they have candy and ice cream and, it's
Hard
like
candy in the bottom of their purse.
and that was one of the things with my mom, like with her Alzheimer's, she's losing her desire to eat. She doesn't want to eat, but she will eat all the sugar, ice cream, cake,
Oh.
pie. And I didn't know why that was. And one of the nurses said because that's kind of the last sense of taste to go. And so like you can still taste sugar more so than you can salt or, spices or things like that. And so she actually said if you're having trouble, with her eating, put some sugar on it because a lot of times they can't taste anything other than the sweetness. So
Hmm.
the next one we talked about just a little bit already, but hair,
Oh,
men's hair tends to start migrating to the ears and the nose and the back,
yay.
and women's tends to migrate to their chins.
Yay.
This is all just like a part of our hormonal
Mhm.
changes and
Yeah.
things that, as we get older, they just start to go. Your hormones just
Yay.
start to dwindle, and sometimes that's, when you're feeling like low energy or you're feeling like you are losing too much of your hair too fast, like it could be a testosterone issue or it could be, it could be a number of different things for men, especially as we age, our testosterone levels tend to decrease, and so sometimes you need a supplement. They have pellets, they have injections, and that's something that can make a huge difference. I took testosterone shots for many years and wish I still did. I need a doctor that will prescribe those.
Any
Feel free to,
doctors call
right,
in.
any doctors listening, please send us your information. I know two women. One I met at an airport while I was waiting in line. And then another is a friend of mine who have told me that hormone therapy has like changed their lives, like completely changed their lives for the better.
Hmm.
And it took a while to get to that place, but when you're feeling, or if you're feeling bad, or if you're feeling low energy, or if you're just feeling like you're really feeling your age, like sometimes that's not normal. Like
Hmm.
sometimes it is, something physical that's going on. So
Completely.
get that checked out.
Yeah, completely. It took me several years to find a doctor who didn't just pat me on the head and say, "Well, this is just part of aging." One who finally said, and when I gave him, when he looked at I walked into his office and he says, "I'm not even going to look at your blood work yet, but I'm going to tell you what you've been hearing from other doctors for the last few years." And he
Uh,
just went over the whole thing. And I was like, What?" Like, are you reading my diary? He said, "It's because I see people like you 10 times a day. And here's the good news, we can fix this in an instant. The bad news, insurance doesn't pay for
right,
it."
exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
They'll pay
that's
for all the meds,
hmm
but not the vitamins or the
exactly.
supplements.
They don't pay
Yeah.
for those pellets, and those
No, they
pellets
do not.
are life saving. No,
Yes. Yeah.
they are amazing. They do. They truly did. Like within weeks, my life was different. All right, and so keep working. For some people, that's not bad news. Like early retirement, though, is probably not the best thing for your health for most people. There's a organization called the Longevity Project, and they found that people who have jobs and jobs that they really like and that they really put a lot of energy and time into, that they live the longest.
So our next one, don't be scared. Adults over 65 who have a fear of falling are the ones who actually fall more often. It's like a
Mhm.
self-fulfilling prophecy.
Exactly.
You think
Exactly.
it happens.
Mm-hmm. I'm just not going to think
Thinking
about
about
it.
the lottery, thinking about
Yeah, there
winning the
you go.
lottery.
I'm about to win the lottery. I love it. Sometimes, after about 60, it seems like 60 seems to be the magic number for so many of these. Self-esteem can take a dip, and the research kind of believes that this has a little bit to do with that loss of purpose, maybe as a result of retirement.
Yeah, and some of the other things like gravity causes everything to
Mm.
fall,
Yes, it does.
right?
Oh, yes, it does.
Physically our spines and our vertebrae start to, get closer. So that's why we start to have, you see people that walk hunched over, can't quite stand up, back pains. There's a lot of physical things that just happen to our bodies as we get older, just
Mhm.
from wear and tear.
And I know I've said it on here before, but my chiropractor says he's seeing it in people younger and younger just
Mm,
because of all the technology we spend our time hunched over.
I believe it. I'm
Mhm.
hunched over right now. I'm gonna sit
Exactly.
up.
Let's do both of us. And then our hands age, how they look and how well they work. Age impacts that, like grip strength. If you begin to notice, I can't open things as well as I used to, so I have a couple of neat tools in my house that I can use. And I also have like those things you can use to improve your grip strength. They're actually little exercisey things. You can just kind of squeeze on them a little bit throughout your day. And
Hmm.
some people in their hands start noticing tremors, as they age. A lot of times medication is part of that. Some people start to notice arthritis, as they age as well, not just in their hands, but in other places.
I have arthritis in my spine, I learned about a year ago,
Really?
and I thought I'm not old enough to have arthritis, but apparently, and you can see it on an X-ray, like mine's narrowing, and you can see like spots of arthritis where it's kind of hardened.
Can you do
So
anything to delay that?
no, I mean you can do physical therapy to help just with mobility, but I think it's something that's genetic. It's weird. My sister and my mom and I both, or we all three have, I think like the exact same
Huh.
degenerative disc in our back, and it's just something that with age has gotten kind of progressively worse.
Does it hurt?
It does hurt, sometimes, not all the time. I actually went and got when I discovered that it was happening, I got, pain injections, so they go
Mhm.
in and, like, inject deadening into the nerves and into, the area around where you're having the problem because it starts to pinch nerves and,
Mhm.
nerves kinda cause shooting pains down your arms, your legs, like, it can be in one area, but be showing up in, the other side of your body. But
Wow.
that helped a lot, the pain shots, the deadening, and then I did PT for a while. That actually made me hurt more, but after a couple of days, I think it helped, but, oh, I hated going
Mm,
because it just really got things messed up and sore there for
yeah.
a couple of days at a time.
I think that someone should be like imprisoned for calling that physical therapy. That is exercise. That is just guided exercise in a big old room with a bunch of other people.
Yeah.
I was so disappointed when I found that out. I was like, "What?" Oh boy. Well, our skin is going to show our age too. Genetics plays a part of that, no doubt. There are some people I know that are much older than me and they look like they're still in their 30s, and that's just good genes. But our we're going to show, in our skin, we're going to have wrinkles and age spots and some bruising. Some of that is medication related, some of it is aging related. But, especially when it comes to spots on our skin, make sure you get those screened because skin cancer is no joke. And just as of today forward, I think all of us know way too much about the sun to not use sunscreen and not try to protect ourselves a little bit from sun. I know back in the day, I was in tanning beds and I was putting olive oil all over my skin when I was outside. Well, no more of that. No more of that. Like I use sunscreen. I wear hats. I wear long sleeves when I can, and I don't know how you feel about it, Joseph, but I think every human being needs a good moisturizer. I can't believe there are people who don't moisturize. I couldn't imagine how my skin would feel if I didn't slather it and stuff. And I
Right.
have serums and then spot spot moisturizers, then all over moisturizers, then one for the morning and one for night. I moisturize all day long.
Wow. I'm not a moisturizer.
No,
No.
how do you look like you're 12 still if you don't
I
moisturize?
don't
That's
know.
amazing. Is it just does your does your family just have like a good genes when it comes to aging and skin type?
I guess. I mean, I can't think of anybody who's just like got hideous skin off the top of my head.
I don't think my family has hideous skin. Let me put that out there.
But yeah, I've just never like I'm not a I just discovered a lotion that I love, Dillard's of all places, so it's stupid expensive, but it doesn't leave like that greasy residue that, moisturize. That's what I can't stand about moisturizers and
Hmm.
lotion is that I just feel greasy after I
Hmm.
put them on. I actually found this incredible face sunscreen when we were in Europe and I bought like 3 boxes of it. But it's just for your face. I mean, I guess you could put it other places, but it's mainly for your face and it just like you put it on and it dries and it's just like you have nothing on, which
Oh
is
wow.
my kind of sunscreen.
Hmm. I am actually shocked. I thought as well. I mean, you are just such a like you dress, like
Oh,
so,
thank
and
you.
you're just like a very much like got it on, with all your clothes and your grooming and everything. So I just assumed you had like the hot off the market best skin cream that is amazing that you
Well,
do
thank
that.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
You do that naturally. Oh
Just
boy.
naturally greasy.
Good. That's funny. I don't think any of this information is new information. I think you and I talk about this all the time, and I think we hear about it a lot, but we don't always do it. So I think
Yep.
it's worth reiterating.
Physical health. We talk about it a lot.
Hmm.
Exercising, moving, getting your body in motion. Go to a gym, get some YouTube videos, do what you have to do to get your blood flowing and, get your heart rate up. We've talked about, parking your car further out in the parking lot, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, getting up and taking a little stroll around your building, a couple of times a day. So you can do all kinds of things to keep your movement going. One of the great things about our, phones and especially like smartwatches now is like my Apple Watch tells me it's time to stand up. Or at the end of the day, it says you could still close your rings if you just went for a brisk 23-minute walk.
What does it mean to
Um,
close your rings?
so you have like your daily rings, like your stand goal for the day, your calorie count for the day. You can set, how many calories you want to burn in a day, or you can set how
Oh,
many steps you want to take in a day. And then it has these rings that basically you're, like a circle. You can see it like a percentage that you've completed.
oh,
And
cool,
at the end of the day, when it gets close to the end of the day, if you haven't, met all your goals, then it pops up and tells you like you could do this and, meet your goal
cool.
for the day.
And so
It's
you,
usually at 10 o'clock, and I'm like, no, thank you. I'm not going for a walk for the next 23
I
minutes. I'm
tie
going
it
to
to the
bed.
dog and play vet. Heck.
Um,
That's awesome. I love something like a smartwatch. I mean, even if while you're watching something on television, I guess we don't have many commercials anymore, but pause it for 30 seconds and get up and just move a little bit.
mhm.
Go
Yeah.
and just move it, move it. Yeah, and we talk about this a lot. Just smarter food choices really will reduce the risk of so many diseases, and that's going to prolong our lives.
Food is so incredibly important.
I know.
So
I
important.
know.
The next one is sleeping. So again,
Hmm.
just practicing good sleep hygiene. Poor sleep quality makes it harder for you to solve problems, makes it harder for you to concentrate. It makes it more difficult for you to just kind of get daily tasks done because you're exhausted, you're tired.
Hmm.
Inadequate sleep has been linked to dementia later in life because of the buildup of beta amyloids, which is a protein involved in Alzheimer's disease.
And I know there's not enough information about dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff, but I guess what we do know we need to pay attention to that.
Absolutely. And low quality of sleep can lead to depression.
Mhm.
So good sleep is associated with lower rates of insulin resistance, heart disease, obesity, improved creativity, decision making, and overall blood sugar levels.
That sounds like sleep does everything for us. I mean,
Pretty
we need to be
important.
getting good sleep. And heck, as you age, what do you have to do? I'm not like out in the club anymore. I'm not hanging out in places half the night. Why not sleep? And some helpful tools that they say, we're just we want to take care of our bodies. We're not young, so we can't bounce back as quick. I mean, if you smoke, stop, I mean, there's nothing I've read that has a pros list for smoking. There's just not a lot of pros for smoking.
Right.
And limit your alcohol and other substances. I know we've talked about that a million times on here, but just alcohol and many other illicit drugs, it just doesn't do a lot to improve your health. There are some, there are some health benefits to some alcohol and some kinds of alcohol and some substances, but limit all that, just moderation. And then go to a doctor, just make sure that someone's seeing you once in a while and checking in somewhere.
Hmm. Yeah, physical. I think that's one of the things that I don't know. I think as we get older, probably we pay more attention to our physical health just because our body starts to, break down a little bit, but we don't necessarily go and see a doctor or, do what we need to do to take care of ourselves physically. I don't know why that is, but that's something that I struggle with. Just, taking the time to get yourself checked out and getting regular checkups,
And I
blood
do.
work, labs.
Oh gosh, so much can be seen in that. And I do love the convenience that we all discovered during the pandy. The pandemic did bring us like visits with our doctors online, which is very convenient, but sometimes we really do need to be right in front of them in person, and I just kind of swear by at least going in once a year just to get some blood work, just to
Hmm.
get for someone to touch you, just to listen to you. Because I tell you, when I check in with my doctor, just did it this weekend, they ask for my blood pressure, my weight, and I always err on the side of being a little wonderful on the scale, I'm
Hmm.
always losing weight when I self-report it.
So mental health is something else that, I think takes a hit. And making sure that you're doing everything you can to manage your emotions to, deal with problems that you're having in life, in healthy, good, healthy ways. Taking medication if you need it, seeing therapists if you need it, doing whatever you need to do in order to manage and make sure that your mental health is on track. And that's one of the things I think we talk about, retiring and, getting to a place where you're not being social or being around people and that depression that kind of kicks in. I think it's really important to recognize that and make changes where you can. So if you're dealing with a lack of social activity, finding, senior groups or things that you can get involved in, leagues that you can join, clubs that you can join. There's lots of options, but just making sure that you're not only taking care of yourself physically, but mentally, it's so important.
Absolutely. And having that social network around you is just so important. Like, you talked about groups to get involved in. You mentioned before, like someone does one of those meetups.
Hmm.
I mean, Meetup, that's a whole website devoted toward just getting people together, And so
Hmm.
if you don't know of a group of people that you could join and go to one of those meetup sites and just get together with people that have like interests with you. It is a risk. I mean, I think it takes some courage to just walk into some place like that, but there are so many places available that like that, and they need and want more members, and they'll benefit from you just as much as you do from them.
Absolutely.
And depression is one of the things we need to think about mental health wise, and we have an entire episode on therapy that you could listen to if you're interested.
Something else that's really important is making sure that you're engaging in, leisurely activities, things that you enjoy, hobbies, marathons,
Yeah.
5Ks, anything that you do that, is going to help bring you like some joy. And if you can get some exercise in the process, that's even better.
Yeah, hobbies. I mean, heck, I mean, I love painting. I love it. Now, I'm not a Picasso or anything. I like to paint on walls and stuff, but sometimes just whenever I'm feeling stressed while I'm working, I'll just get up and go paint on something for a little while. Just any kind of hobby, just something that you enjoy that brings out your happy.
Yep.
Reduce your stress a little bit. I mean, we've already talked about this so much, but stress is not good for us. It stress hormones affect the brain, they affect the body. So if we can reduce our risk and our reaction to stress, we really can reduce our medical and mental health crises. We even have a episode on stress you can listen to for some more tips about it.
So cognitive health, super important. Some things that we've covered, don't smoke. Smoking ages you. It's terrible for your body. There's so many bad things that happen when you smoke. Drinking, same thing, ages you, causes you to gain weight. It's terrible for your body.
Yes.
So those are a couple of things, making sure that you're eating good, high quality food, getting your proteins in, your complex carbs, like all of the things that you need from a nutrition standpoint. All of that is going to help with your the aging process.
And some of our information says that Mediterranean style diets are really good to help cognition. I'm going to be looking into that. And if I find that it is amazing, I will share it with you guys.
Love that.
Love it. Love it.
Thank you for listening to Life Lives Better with Paula and Joseph.